I've often said with people, hindsight perhaps is the very best sight. As I look back on my life and those strategic moments that the Lord brought into my life, that's brought me to this point today. I got saved as a teenager back in the summer of 1957. As I continued on through school after graduating from high school in 1960, I didn't know what the Lord had in store for me or what He wanted me to do. So I just got a job and working on installing missiles of all things. As I got plugged into a good Bible teaching church one night, I remember on a Sunday night, there was a film that was shown called Mystery of Three Clocks. I'll never forget that moment. Because I watched that film and I thought, this film is amazing. The high quality of this film is beyond anything I'd ever seen. Plus, it had the gospel. But at the end, I saw Moody Bible Institute. So I had to find out more. How could a Christian organization produce such an amazing film like this with the gospel? Well, I found out that the Moody films and Dr. Moon were well known and being shown in churches all across the country and really in various languages around the world. And at that particular time, Dr. Moon, who was Marilyn's father, was so well known. He was like another Billy Graham in his day. Everyone just knew him because of the films that were going out everywhere. So knowing that, I had to check out Moody Bible Institute. So I wrote to the Institute in Chicago, and they sent me an application to enroll. And so I was accepted. And so in 1961, I became a student at Moody Bible Institute. As I progressed through that time, when I got into my senior year, I heard that Dr. Moon's daughter was going to be coming to school. And there at the beginning of that school year, a friend of mine said to me, Lyle, let's go down and check out this new freshman crew of girls that are coming. Well, the dining hall was down in the lower level in the basement kind of a thing, and the guys would enter on one side, the gals would enter on the other side. And so we were standing there and watching the gals come in. And I saw this young gal come in, and I turned to my friend and I said, see that girl over there? Now, there's a dizzy dame from California if I ever saw one. You see, Marilyn was from California, and Californians don't dress like Midwesterners. And she stood out, because there in California, you don't have warm clothes. Now, I didn't know who she was. I didn't know that she was Dr. Moon's daughter. About a month later, as I sat down for lunch, because at lunchtime you could sit anywhere, as I sat down for lunch, next to me was Marilyn. And so I introduced myself to her, and she said, well, I'm Marilyn Moon. You're Dr. Moon's daughter. Oh, my goodness. So we had a little chit-chat during lunch there, but from that point on, every once in a while, our paths would cross there, maybe in the post office or places like that. At that particular time, me and a friend of mine had a Sunday night ministry, and because every Sunday night we would go over to like the elite church in Chicago called the Fourth Presbyterian Church, which is on the Miracle Mile, Michigan Avenue, huge, big, steepled church and all. And every Sunday night, young people from all over Chicago, Roosevelt, Northwestern University, you name it, all gathered there, about 400 or 500, young adults. And they would have their little meeting and break up for some, snacks afterwards and so on like that. And the youth pastor was a guy fresh out of Yale with a collar and all that sort of stuff. And so after he was all done, this friend of mine, we'd go out and just talk to guys everywhere and just share the gospel. And guys started getting saved. It was amazing. So I started praying. I said, because we would only talk to guys, I started praying, asking the Lord to give me a gal that would go with us and talk to the gals. Well, one day I ran into Marilyn. So I started telling her about what we were doing on Sunday nights. Asked her if she'd like to join us and go and just share with the gals there at this gathering. She said, sure. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, this is an answer to prayer. I wasn't thinking date or girlfriend, anything like that. This is an answer to prayer. Boy, she can go out and just now begin to share with gals, which she began to do. Well, we did that for week after week for several weeks. Then on November 22nd, 1963, a very infamous day here in our country when President Kennedy was assassinated. As a result, the school just closed down, and in fact, the entire city of Chicago pretty much closed down. It was like a ghost town. It was eerie. So I saw Marilyn. I said, would you like to take a walk? And she said, okay. So we walked down Chicago Avenue, walked all the way down to Lake Michigan. We walked around Navy Pier. And then we kind of just stood there looking out over the lake, and she was right here to my left. And I'm looking out over the water, and it was almost like I heard an audible voice saying to me, Lyle, Marilyn is to be your wife. I didn't know what to think. I had never even thought about that. I wasn't thinking boyfriend, girlfriend, relationship, none of that. And now all of a sudden, I have this impression that one day she is to be my wife. Well, I had a couple of friends back at the Institute who had been praying for me. They were in my senior class as well. They were already engaged. And they told me that they were praying for me that before I would graduate, I would find my soulmate. So I went back and I told them what had just happened. I guess you can stop praying for me. Well, I didn't say anything to Marilyn for quite some time. And as that semester came to an end, she went back to California to be with her family. I went to Kansas to be with my family. After that Christmas break, I went back to Chicago, and I went out to the airport to meet Marilyn, pick her up, and take her back into the city. And so she came off the plane. She's carrying this big old bag. And so we got on the bus to go back into the city. And as we were riding on this bus, she opens up this bag. And out she pulls this incredible sweater. She had spent her entire Christmas vacation knitting this sweater for me. You'll see it in one of her pictures in just a little bit. We're in the classroom together, and I'm wearing that sweater. And I just thought, oh my goodness, no one had ever done anything like this for me. Showing this kind of love and devotion. Oh my goodness. Well, as we moved further down the road, in February, Moody Bible Institute always shuts down for a week. Whatever day Moody's birthday was on, they would shut down and have this conference called Founders Week. And everybody would go to these conferences. But this one particular night, we decided we would skip the conference. We would just go out and spend some time together. So we went to, all places, the YMCA. It's a big 25-story building there in Chicago Avenue. And so there was a place up on either the second or the third floor where there was like a love seat next to the elevator and so forth like that. And we went up there and we sat down just to talk. And she was sitting to the left of me. And I said to her, Marilyn, would you ever? And that's all I could say. Because she interrupted me and said, yes. So at that point in time, I guess we were kind of unofficially engaged. So I was working in the music department in the evenings, and so I was getting a little income. And so we went downtown to Chicago. We found this jewelry store, of all places, Phillips Jewelry. And she picked out her engagement ring and wedding ring. And so little by little, I was able to get enough money to make payments on it. And eventually, we were able to go down and purchase the ring. I gave it to her as we were going down an elevator. I'm such a romantic. As we came to the end of that school year and I graduated, she went back to California for the summer. I was working in Chicago with the thought of maybe going on for further schooling. So she's now back here in California. One day her mother asked, is Lyle the right one? And Marilyn said, yes. And she knew that we were engaged. She said, well, I don't believe in long engagements. I think you should get married. So Marilyn immediately got in touch with me and told me what her mother said. And oh my goodness, we weren't anticipating that at all. So as I finished my job there in Chicago through the course of summer, I had this little green Volkswagen, which we called Murgatroyd, which I drove to California and got here on August 30th, 1964. We were then married the following January 30th, on her parents' 35th wedding anniversary. For the next, well, I worked at UCLA for a year and a half or something like that, and then worked for Moody Institute of Science as they moved here to Whittier and so on like that. But as I begin to think about all these steps throughout all of those years, one night I was laying in bed and I was thinking about this. Remember seeing that film, Mystery of Three Clocks, and then going to Moody, eventually meeting Marilyn, Dr. Moon's daughter. As I laid there, I thought, this is amazing. I'm now sleeping in Dr. Moon's bedroom. Because her father wanted us one day to have that house, and her mother eventually gave it to us. And so we moved back there, along with her mother as well. And that was so amazing to me. But now as I look back, I just see what the Lord had done all through those years. But the thing I thought about, because the Lord didn't allow me to go immediately on to school after high school, and I was out of school for that 1 year, therefore, because of that, our paths were able to cross because Marilyn was in her first year and I was in my senior year when we met. And had the Lord not done that, I wouldn't have had Laura, I wouldn't have had Brian, Marilyn and I both, or my wonderful grandchildren. Hindsight can be the best sight as you look back and you see what the Lord has done. And he's still doing things. My son Brian already talked about what the Lord has been doing with us at Calvary Chapel, New Beginnings. I've been here for 21 years, and what a blessing it was to serve the Lord here. My wife was here 16 years managing the bookstore, but he wasn't done with us. And if you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, he's not done with you. Whatever you're doing, he's not done with you. All he's looking for is a willing heart. We're told in 1 Corinthians 4:2, it's accounted unto a steward to be found faithful. It's all God is looking for is availability. He supplies the ability. We supply the availability. That's all he's looking for. It's a matter of surrendering our wills unto him and giving him our lives and allowing him to take over. God bless you.